And I want to thank everybody for watching my show. And of course, today is August 15th, 2020. If you don't know who I am, my name is actually Andrew Fetter. I haven't said it in the past few shows, so here I am telling you I'm Andrew Fetter. You can always check me out. I've had way back in the day, I had a show called When Pigs Fly that was on bbsradio.com. I believe there's still archives. You can always check past shows I had back then. And also I'm an author and a film producer, produced a documentary which you can actually see if you are on my channel. It's regarding the Hopi, Native Americans. Please check that out if you like. And of course my past shows. And you can always Google and check out Amazon on my past novels that I've written in the past. And of course I've done quite a bunch of different things in my life. But enough about me. I'm getting back to what I feel extremely important in this day and age, which is the oncoming elections and how important they are. And the reasoning why I am doing this is one of the reasons is to inform, to question, to think about, to present, so people like you and me can question things and be analytical and use our free minds to find out where we want to choose and where we want to head toward, especially here in the United States and worldwide. So this is basically the 4 of 4 Biden and Trump economic policies. Again, it's 4 of 4. I've done the previous 3. The first 2 were basically some generalized approaches within the Biden and Trump economics. And of course, the third was solely on Biden's corrupt enterprise, which please watch that. Has a lot of facts. And of course, I went into about the globalists versus anti-globalists, and I also went into another show regarding the historical factual that the Democrats has always been a racist party. It was a slave party, the KKK party, etc., and that there was never any changes or swaps or the Southern strategy that some leftists and Democrats changed, and etc. Please check out those shows, and again, thank you for watching this show. So anyway, getting to this adventure, I'm going to go through an apple and apples sort of approach as much as I can. Basically between the Trump and the Biden economic policies, both in theory and practice. So you have a better understanding where Trump is, and if you're not aware, and if you are, good, then Biden as well. First of all, Trump, as we know, is a businessman. He owned corporations, construction. He's had over 1,000 employees. And Trump has another very unique thing. He incorporated his day-to-day relationship with his employees from a top-down approach. Now, I've been following Trump since back in the 80s. In my family, in the past, we've had 3 generations of doing construction. We had a rather large company. So one reason why I followed him, I was rather intrigued by how he approached things. And one of his great attributes, which I noticed, is how he not only empathized and related and had a rapport with his upper management, but he recognized how important his employees were, and that they were truly the assets of the company. No matter how big or small, they're all functionally important to the company. Well, he basically has the same sort of view with the United States. I don't care if whatever your profession is, it's important to the United States. And that's how he basically sees it, as any person, as a business person, would be looking into as elected official in the United States, would probably look at that as their perspective. Biden, on the other hand, is a career politician who basically got his Juris Doctorate and got his law degree and whatever, never was really a lawyer, but he went right straight into being a career politician. And he never really owned or operated any business that actually had employees, and therefore he had no really empathy toward employees. He never had that rapport or relationship. The only employees maybe be where he's working as when he was a senator, and those aren't really his employees. Basically, those are government employees, right? So he never really had his own employees. He never ran a business that had employees, and that's really significant to understand. So you have to understand that Biden, when he claims that he's some sort of Scranton working man, politician, that's as ridiculous as saying George Bush Jr. is the Pope. Okay, I mean, that's how absurd that is. The simple fact is, if we follow Biden, you need to follow he's basically will be simply following in his economic policies. He's going to follow Obama-Biden 2.0 economics. And that we've all experienced, right? I mean, during the Obama administration, that's basically going to be his policy, but with one little caveat. You see, Biden has endorsed and incorporated and will be applying the extreme leftist economic socialist policies of AOC and Bernie Sanders into his hybrid economic plan, which he signed on to it and it's part of it. I mean, Medicare for all, open borders, the Green New Deal, all the above have been incorporated and signed on to by Biden, including, by the way, defunding the police department, of all things. So think about that. I mean, if you don't have law and order, who's going to open a business, right? They're going to be running away. But that's another thing, and I've already went into that issue before, so I'm not going to delve into it, but that's a serious issue in itself. But what would Biden basically do? And he actually stated it. He said he would read my lips, reverse all your taxes. All your tax cuts that you got, he would increase. So if you got a tax cut, get ready. That tax cut's suddenly you're going to pay back more. And he's going to also reverse all the corporate tax cuts too, which means corporations are going to rethink about adding more employees or reinvesting. In fact, the added taxes will cause a divestment within the United States. And of course, we all experienced that, right? During the 8 years of Obama administration and the Biden years, that they basically, we experienced and witnessed the vast amount of outsourcing. I mean, who hasn't experienced, either yourself or someone you know, that they're working for a company and suddenly now they're employing people from India or in China or elsewhere, right? I mean, somebody has experienced that. But Biden's a little bit worse, because he's not only talking about reversing and removing all the tax cuts that Trump had created, but he's also going to reinstitute all the regulations too. And then on top of that, he has said, because he's mandated it, that now he wants to double corporate taxes. He wants to increase the inheritance tax. He wants to create capital gains tax. I mean, there's so many taxes he just wants to increase across the board. It's ridiculous. But it's on an average, will be doubling what Obama during the Obama-Biden years. Let me put it that way. Now, I'm asking you, if you have a business or a corporation, would you conduct any business in the United States knowing you're going to have to pay double the tax? Hell no. They're not stupid. What are they going to do? Are they going to leave their headquarters in the United States or continue doing most of their business in the United States? Hell no. I mean, oh yeah, we experienced that during the Obama-Biden years, right? When corporations simply moved out and went to places like Canada, Ireland, and elsewhere. I mean, Biden's approach is increasing taxes will do nothing short of just increasing, he thinks will be increasing tax revenue. But instead, it's going to cause an economic crash. causing a loss of tax revenue and a loss of corporations with, well, like I said, more outsourcing, and simply they're saying, screw you, we're moving out of here. I mean, we've experienced that. And we've experienced that when Biden was VP, right? So now Biden has now added on to that increase the I call it the Biden Socialist hybrid tax system, which incorporates tax the crap at everyone wherever you can, including the wealthy, as he say, but he forgets that, oh yeah, those wealthy people pay people's salaries, and they're the ones who invest, and that's like cutting your nose in spite of your face, as they say. So basically he's thinking he's going to help pay for that Green New Deal, right? Everybody laughed about, but now they're actually supporting it. And what is it going to cost? $4 trillion. That's on paper what they say. This is what they even admit. It's going to cost $4 trillion. Now, when have Democrats been really good on math? Because in reality, I was putting together in my own head the reciprocal and rippling effects of doing what they're talking about is actually got probably another $2 trillion. So it's, in reality, my calculation is going to be close to $6 trillion. $6 trillion. And I'm probably not that far. There might be more or less, but I'm probably pretty close to that figure when I was thinking about it. And what else that will do? Oh yeah, they want to crush the energy sector in the United States and destroy the energy infrastructure that we have, which would in effect kill 20 million jobs alone. That's directly killing 20 million jobs in the energy sector and industry. It will have a rippling effect more than that, because when those 20 million people are not working, they don't buy things. And then those businesses don't buy things. So there's a rippling effect that is quite devastating. And it will be such a devastation, it will literally ripple and catapult America into a Great Depression that will be well beyond what the United States experienced in the 1930s. It would be so catastrophic. Now, we also know that when Biden talks about his fake shovel-ready jobs for green industries, which I have discussed in prior my prior shows, were complete fraud. I mean, how much money really ended up going into any of those so-called shovel-ready Green Deal jobs? They end up going into people's pockets, right, Joe? Some friends of your guys, because that's how the Democrats work. Money goes into the government and they pay off other people. They all love doing kickbacks because that's what Democrats love to do. That's how they become wealthy. They don't get money because they're wealthy or owning companies and factories. They get their money out of kickbacks and in little gammocks of things. I mean, I'll give you one example I'm just thinking about. Just popped in my head. They will, and this you can see, you can Google it and find out. A lot of the Democrats will have their significant other act as a consultant for their campaign. So the campaign funds runs into their campaign, and then they pay this hundreds of thousands of dollars to their significant other as a consultant. And Bernie Sanders is known for that himself too as well. I mean, if you want an endorsement from Bernie Sanders, what he does is he has his wife who has a consulting company, and then you have to pay her out of your campaign to her, and that's how he makes his money. Now you understand how the Democrats work. So, and Biden is no different. So getting back to the Biden politics and economic policies and Trump's economic policies, it is actually, when we talk about what are the differences of how philosophies occur. Trump's belief is that, which is more Republican, is that the belief of capitalism or capitalist enterprises will directly increase jobs, increase competition, prosperity, will drive up economic prosperity. And that's actually been factually and historically correct. I mean, you go in the mid 1800s, the 1950s, 1960s, and throughout the 20th century, with the exception of the Depression, when you've had true competition and true capitalism, people have benefited. But governments have never, ever been able to create enough jobs to get us through any real recession or depression. And that's a fact. So when people like AOC or others make the claim that, oh yeah, the federal government had bailed us out, no, they didn't. The federal government never bailed us out of a depression. That's actually factually incorrect. When the New Deals happened, that actually fundamentally just added a band-aid, gave people work temporarily, but it never changed our economic situation. What changed the economy in the United States was World War II. I mean, that was actually a historical fact. So no government actually changes the dynamics of producing a great economy. Even after 2008, we had the calamity of that Great Recession, all the stimuluses that Obama did, paying off banks and whatnot, and bailing them out, basically, that didn't help anybody. And even when their so-called infrastructure bills, did that produce any viable economy? No, it didn't. It basically gave a band-aid, because governments do not produce economies. Only free enterprise can produce good economics with prosperity and great opportunities, and actually increase the middle class with great wealth and prosperity. That's why during the Obama years with Biden, the middle class shrunk drastically, because their policies had nothing to do to expand the benefit and increasing people within the middle class and bringing people from the lower class to better prosperity as well. So when socialist Biden, as I call him, thinks that he's now embracing socialism, he's literally embracing a historical and factually failure, a great failure. Of course, we know Biden has never been successful at anything except for his corrupt enterprises. I hate to say it. Think about it. Socialism doesn't work. Soviet Union, Cuba, currently Venezuela. There's plenty of examples. I go on and on. And if they say, oh, well, Scandinavia had socialism. Well, I hate to tell you, they're not longer socialists. They have extremely low taxes for both business and corporations. They do have a higher tax for income tax to pay off some of their social programs, but they're far from being you can't call them a socialist country. They just have a strange way of taxing. Can you imagine the Democrats having almost zero tax for corporations and businesses? No way. Of course, that would be helping the wealthy, right? Well, that's actually how the tax system works in Scandinavia. If you have corporations and businesses, you pay very low taxes. The income tax is where you pay your taxes. Another example, having lived there back in Israel back in the late 70s and the 80s, Israel was, for its first decades, was a socialist country. Menachem Begin of the Likud, he began to rip that system apart, and it kept on continuing even under Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu, and during the 90s, and continued until throughout the 2000s, and made Israel very successful economically and having great prosperity as we're witnessing, because they left socialism and instead embraced capitalism. And that's actually the historical facts and present facts and contemporary facts. And so basically, those are the realities. Now, I'm going back to Trump and Trump economics. You have to understand his policies and his ideas are not unique, by the way. Trump economics is literally a copy, close to it. I may be exaggerating to some degree, but if you look at JFK's economic plan in the 1960s, it's almost a mirror with small little changes from Trump economics. Because what did JFK do in 1960 after the Great Recession in the late 50s? He cut corporate tax drastically, and he cut personal taxes drastically, and he started cutting significantly regulations. What did Trump do? He cut the regulations, he cut corporate taxes, he cut personal taxes, and voila, prosperity, right? And that's basically what JFK did. So, as you remember in 2016, probably, hopefully you remember, many questioned Trump's ability and his sustainment in his economic policy. Some of them thought far-fetched. I mean, of course, they said that infamously, who was a Bush senior, called Reaganomics voodoo economics, and of course his economic policies proved to be quite beneficial for America during the 80s, which we had that great growth in the 80s due to Ronald Reagan. Trump's policies are significantly different than Ronald Reagan because he didn't go from the so-called from the top drip system from the top down. What Trump did was literally across the board. He took it as a businessman. He looked, I know the American people can do it. He believed in the American people. He believes in our enterprise, and he looks at it like you look at a corporation and says, I know what I'm going to do. If I can cut down a little bit of the costs, direct costs of taxes, that'll produce incentive for corporations and people, and guess what? That pie will expand. And so therefore, if you expand that pie, the economic pie, even though you reduce the taxes by a percentage, the volume of taxes and tax revenue will drastically increase. And that's actually what happened, because if you look at the stocks and everything else, they quadrupled. I mean, where we are now, 28,000, when he took over was back around 16, 17, I think. I may be wrong, but it was around then. I mean, it was significantly upside. And even after what we have in COVID, the stock markets and the NASDAQ have gone straight up through the moon, right? This is because the policies that Trump created and imposed, I would say imposed because he got a vote through the Congress to do it, right? But mandated, changed the economics in the United States. It made us significantly stronger, and there's other reasons for that. So, but you can never compare these great opportunities. And by the way, this is not a carryover. Trump's economics is not a carryover from Biden and Obama from the 8 years. That's factually incorrect, because they were basically flatlined. Unemployment rates were flatlined. The GNP was pretty much flatlined. Everything was pretty much stagnant. That was a fact. The unemployment rate had just slightly, very little has gone up. The labor rate had very little growth. If you average it out from 8 years, it's going to look larger, but it really isn't, because if you take from 2009 to 2010, when people were out of work and suddenly started getting back to work to some recovery, then you had that slight jump. But if you average it out, it was not so significant, even on a scale, and you can witness it. People witnessed it. They're not, people didn't make that much money during the Obama years, except for the very wealthy, the people who were outsourcing. The people had corporations doing globalist things with China and elsewhere, in India and elsewhere. Those are the ones who benefited. So you can't really compare when, I'm talking between what Obama had done with Biden during those 8 years to what Trump did. Because Trump, what he did, factually drastically increased the economic opportunities for Americans, both in employment and in business. That's a fact. There's without any, you can't even argue that. Now, you can't also even compare Biden's own economic failings, which we, his policies alone, both foreign and domestic, have always been failures, even as a senator, which I'm going to get into another show, especially his foreign policies. But his economic policies, which is like Obama Biden 2.0, which has incorporated the hybrid socialist AOC Bernie Sanders economic policies, will also lack and fall on its face. In fact, it'd be a disaster. I mean, we've experienced what Biden and Obama did during those 8 years, how bad those were, and then you just throw on top of it a big bomb on it, and that would be the socialist Green New Deal AOC Bernie Sanders that he has incorporated with their massive trillions of dollars, and who the hell is going to pay for all that? So, but Trump on the other hand has proven his success, right? I mean, you have Biden on the one hand, who has failed for 40 years, both foreign and domestic, and his economic policies. We've experienced what they were like. And then he's going to tell you he's going to build America again? Come on, really? And Trump, on the other hand, whether you love him or hate him, he did do it. His system worked. And the reason why his system worked is because it's simple business. And anybody who understands very simple economics, or has a business, or has a corporation or small business, whatever, and you have employees, will have this use and have the same approach that Donald J. Trump did economically. And it proved successful because he was the first businessman who took over the helm of the United States and ran it like a company and fixed it instead of some crazy ass bureaucracy. Let's just tax and spend. No business does that. What does a business do? Okay, we have the assets of people. We have assets of individuals. We have a service or a manufacturing, and how do we increase our company, both by effectiveness and cost and sales? And he did all three, didn't he? So we are experiencing what we had experienced, what Biden's economic policies were. I mean, we did it during the Obama administration. We had the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s, with 95 million of Americans without work, or not engaged in the work environment. Those are facts. The so-called recovery, it was actually historically one of the worst recoveries. It was actually the worst since the 1940s, with the lowest home owner rate since the 1950s. And there was more than 11 million Americans on food stamps, and 43 million Americans living at poverty levels. That was up until 2016. 8 years had passed, and you had 43 million Americans living at poverty levels. And we had no increase of manufacturing in the United States. Well, of course, we were outsourcing manufacturing and services, which meant less jobs for Americans. During the Biden-Obama years, the GNP never hit 3 points on an average. In fact, it was stagnant for 8 years, well below, between around 2% or less. I may have had with 1, 3, but I mean, invariably it was like 1 point something every quarter. Go look it up. On the other hand, with Trump, what was created? Trump created the historical low unemployment. Historical low for African Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for Asian Americans, for all Americans, American women. I mean, every American, the employment the unemployment rate would drop drastically. I mean, he even created more manufacturing in 3 decades that has never occurred. Let me put it this way. He created more manufacturing jobs than that had occurred in 3 decades. And how many manufacturing jobs were created during the Obama years with sustainability, during Biden's years with sustainability? That was increased well beyond what was before. Zero. That was what Biden and Obama economics works. They have zero. In fact, I remember Obama laughed it off that, oh, well, you know, those manufacturing jobs, we can basically kiss that off. Basically, you're going to need a magic wand to bring those manufacturing jobs back. Well, who brought those manufacturing jobs and still bringing those manufacturing jobs is Donald J. Trump. That's who's bringing those jobs back, and he did it. So, during the Trump years, he actually, in the last 3.5 plus years, the GNP was well above 3%, and even hit 4% up until COVID on average. There are over 4 million Americans that have lifted themselves out of food stamps, and poverty itself has dropped drastically up until COVID. Not up, but down, complete reverse from the Biden years. What else is significant? I haven't mentioned it because it is probably one of the most important things you can think of. That's energy. Trump has made us energy independent. This is extremely important, not just geopolitically, but because of because of jobs and businesses. American prosperity, for even small business to large, have benefited from our energy independence. Because what our economy is driven on? Energy. You can't turn the light out. I was just doing this show and the lights went out and I had to restart all over. So I couldn't even do a show or do air or even go on the internet without what? Energy. Energy is everything. It's so important. And what has Trump done? He made us energy independent. I mean, you can't manufacture anything without energy. You can't provide any service without energy. It's basically the lifeblood of economics. But while Biden wants to destroy their energy infrastructures, Trump, on the opposite, wants to encourage their evolution to greater levels for greater American independence at low cost, while being mindful of environmental needs and understandings in real pollution like sulfates, and in trying new and better, more efficient energy systems, not just on petrol and fossil fuel, but other endeavors. But you have to become first on energy, even on fossil fuels. And by the way, fossil fuels are associated with a lot of things too, not just energy, but plastics and a lot of byproducts that are used that you would be shocked that everything you use has something to do with oil, so, and shale and natural gas, which, by the way, all three is what Biden wants to destroy. Where are they going to get it? From a windmill that kills it kills concords and kills eagles and kills hawks. Talk about environmental. And having sun power. Where are you going to have those sun power panels? In Southwest? Because, by the way, I lived overseas, and when I had a solar units for our water when I lived in Israel. And by the way, when it got those cloudy days, you didn't have hot water. You had to turn on the electricity to heat your water. Well, the same thing happens on a cloudy day, and when it comes to electricity, you're going to have a blackout if you think you're going to have electricity and you're relying only on solar power. So that ain't going to happen. And it isn't even efficient enough, okay? It's good as a subsidy, but not efficient. There's, of course, I'm not going to get into other efficient energy systems that I wish they would explore, but at this point they haven't. But my point here is Trump is encouraging an evolution of energy, but first you have to be energy efficient so you have a base for doing other things in your economy, and that's what's so important. So While Trump has cut taxes, which benefit small businesses that benefit you or your job, under Biden's plan, that will simply end. You can kiss off your small business and you can kiss off your job. If you want to see examples of Biden economics, just look at New York or California, where corporations like Amazon and Tesla have left. I mean, Tesla is now built a plant in Texas and basically told California to go F off, basically. Amazon was going to produce a facility in New York, but ALC protested and they moved out. Amazon was going to produce a facility near Seattle, and they were going to tax, believe it or not, tax your employee. They were going to tax how many employees they had. So Amazon said, "Screw that, we're out of there." This is basically Biden and the Democrats. You know, everything is about taxing everybody. These Democrat-run states are examples of Biden. You look at every blue state and how they came and have a fiscal policy. I'll give you an example. Gavin Newsom, they put a mandate right just recently where Trump did the exec order where he proposed $400 as on top of your unemployment instead of what happened to $600 because the Democrats refused to extend it. So he unilaterally went and did an exec order mandating $400 on top of unemployment insurance to help everybody who's unfortunately maybe out of work or not have work or whatever. But Gavin Newsom says, can't pay that other $100 because $100 is supposed to come out of the state. They said they're broke. California is broke. Where'd all that money go to? Illegals? To help pay for, they gave out millions of dollars for their stimulus. And what about their pensions and overpaid administrators? I can go on and on. You can just, I mean, it's physically disgusting. But if you look at red states, Republican states such as Florida and Texas, who have very similarities as far as size and everything, they're pretty much fine, aren't they? Why? Because they're not a tax state. They're not a socialized state, making you dependent. And this is basically, so you're witnessing what Biden economics is. That's what I'm pointing out. So if you think your business is bad now, or your job is questionable, or maybe gone, yeah, it will be, because if Biden was president, God forbid, you can kiss your business off or kiss your job, it's gone. Because at the end, you'll end up nothing more than a Democrat serf that's going to have to rely on whatever handout by the government's going to give you, because that's truly what Biden economics is. It's a handout if you're so lucky. But don't worry. I mean, Biden's corrupt enterprise will continue. China's economy will come back and boom with greater new business and new jobs. Maybe you can go to China and get a job there. Because with Biden, he's going to help China. I mean, wink, wink. He wasn't paid, or rather, Hunter wasn't give $1.5 billion for his smile. Don't we know it, Joe? Joe is the reason that China is taking advantage of America. You'll notice that how Biden never says anything about China, right? Because he's owned by China. It's made China great again. China for Biden is build back China again, right, Joe? It's why Biden was always against any new deals that would even restrict China. It's why Biden was against Trump when he put the ban on Chinese coming here, even after knowing they had COVID. Biden accused them of being xenophobic toward the Chinese when Trump stopped allowing Chinese coming here because of the epidemic of COVID. But of course, we won't get into that. Saved how many lives or whatever with COVID. Biden's just a globalist. I mean, he supported the old NAFTA deal that literally drove out American manufacturing and jobs. Right, Michael Moore? I mean, you even commented about how bad NAFTA deal was and that's how you came out of Flint, Michigan, right, Michael? How bad was it then? And it continued to be bad. For 3 decades, the United States has been screwed over by all these trade deals that Biden was behind and supported. But Trump changed all that. He changed the trade deals with Mexico and Canada. Do you think Biden could ever have done that? Hell no. He wouldn't even change it. He wouldn't want to change it. Now, what about South Korea and Japan? Or the EU or UK? Or, of course, like I said, China. I mean, you can't say the same about Biden, because he wouldn't want to achieve new deals. Even if he could, he wouldn't even, he couldn't even achieve a deal. He couldn't even make a real deal. The only deal he could do is where I get my money. Or does my brother get the money, or does my son get the money? And how about my wife, Jill? Will she get a kickback? Maybe she should have opened a new business. Right, Joe? I mean, come on. Let's face it. Joe Biden is a globalist. His interest is not for you. Globalist means outside America. Globalism is about doing business outside America. It's not America first. Anti-globalist is about nationalist aspirations within the United States. Making sure Americans come first. American business first. American workers are first. Big or small. Biden doesn't care about you. He's not interested in you at one bit. He doesn't care about any Americans. So no matter what your color, your race, your ethnicity, religion, sex, or sexual orientation, the fact is Biden truly does not give a crap about you. He gives the rat's ass about you. He'll pander you till you go and vote for him, but he doesn't care about you one way or another. On the other hand, Trump has, in fact, proven that his economic policies could create, even to as we're experiencing today, a V recovery from COVID. And Biden knows it. That's why the Democrats are drastically trying to screw your business and your jobs with their draconian measures. Biden and the Democrats don't give a flying ass about American kitchen economics. They never have and they never will. Like I said, they'll only pander you because they want your vote. That's a fact. Trump economics has absolutely proven to be successful before and after COVID. But Biden's economic policies, like Biden's policies, have always been and will always be failures. They'll end your prosperity, they'll end your jobs, they'll end your business. So if you want to be a serf in the kingdom of Biden, then go ahead and support him. But if you want prosperity for your family, your children, your loved ones, your neighbors, your friends, frankly, just all Americans, then it's pretty obvious Trump is your president. Because Biden's Build Back really is only better for Joe and his family and all his former Obama cronies. That's what it's better for. It's better for their bank accounts. It's for their prosperity while you remain the serf. It has always been Biden's MO for all his political career to do whatever he can at the expense of the American people. He doesn't give a shit about you. He doesn't give a crap about you. Biden's only interest is for himself, his family, his minions, and the Chinese Communist Party. Right, Joe? Like I said, Joe Biden doesn't give a crap about you. Not about America, not about the American people, and certainly not about the American worker, not you. That even if you don't like the way Trump talks or tweets, either way, you can honestly look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I don't like maybe Trump, what he says or tweets. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. The fact is, Donald Trump has accomplished more in 3+ years, especially economics, than Biden has ever done, not only 8 years, in his entire political career. So please wake up. Take that red pill. Think for yourselves. Because as George Orwell has said, a people that elect corrupt politicians, imposters and thieves, and traitors are not victims but accomplices. I believe that the American people, you know the truth. So please do yourself the wealth, investigate, think for yourself, and I wish you all peace and prosperity. And thank you again. God bless you.